Congratulations on making it through round pen training. You've spent roughly 1 week building a very strong foundation on your horse, a foundation that will pay huge dividends in the future as you move forward in your training with your horse. Now, when you started in the round pen roughly a week ago, you would have started most likely with one of two types of horses. You would have started with a horse that was scared of its own shadow, or you would have started with a horse that wanted to be your best buddy. Now, if you started with the best buddy type horse, most likely he also had started picking up some rather bratty traits, because most likely those horses, they tend to be the kind of horse that want to hang out with you, be your best buddy, and frankly take advantage. But that very same horse a week later will move away from you the instant you ask it to. It'll pick up a trot when you ask it to. It'll turn away from you when you ask it to. It's basically a completely different horse. It's now a horse that respects you. By the same token, if you have that scaredy cat horse, if you started with a horse that was scared of you and its own shadow, that very same horse will now stand close to you. You can touch it, you can pet it, you can ask it to turn toward you, you can even ask it to come to you. Regardless of which type of horse you began with in your round pen training, you now have a horse that can read your body language, that respects your personal space, and respects you as leader. But now common sense should tell you, you still have quite a bit of work to go. There's still quite a bit of ground training that needs to go into your horse before you can first step aboard. Next, you want to sack out your horse. You want to get it used to the touch of everyday objects. Not only your hands, but things that it might come in contact with on a daily basis. Things like your hoof pick, your saddle blanket, the bridle, anything that might fall against the horse or might touch it either by purpose or by accident. Another thing that you're going to have to do is get your horse used to accepting the bit and bridle. Now, obviously, this is going to take a little bit of extra time if your horse is head shy, so plan accordingly. You're also going to want to do what I refer to as bridle work from the ground, where you put the bridle and the bit on the horse and you teach the horse to give to pressure. You use the bridle just as you would as if you were riding, but from the safety of the ground. You teach the horse to give to pressure, but by that I mean to move his hips away, to move his shoulders away, to move to the side, to move forward, to move back, but all based on the pressure of the bit. It's much safer to do this when you're on the ground than later if you're on the horse's back. You also have to get your horse used to carrying a saddle around. Before a horse can pack a saddle around safely without bucking, for instance, you have to teach it slowly in increments. Because when you first put a saddle on a horse's back, he doesn't know if you're strapping it up there forever or for 5 minutes. He has no idea. So there's a method to this. You need to do it slowly and you need to do it in steps. You need to know how to get your horse accustomed to carrying a saddle safely. And of course, before the horse actually carries anybody anyplace, you have to take the time it takes to teach the horse to accept somebody stepping up into that saddle and sitting down on the horse's back. What I would suggest is that you go pick up a copy of my book called How to Start a Horse. How to Start a Horse picks up where the round pen training leaves off. It takes you step by step through all the things that you need to do, all the ground training that you need to know in order to get onto your horse the first time, as well as what to do for that very first ride. When you finish the work in How to Start a Horse, you will have ridden your horse 1, 2, 3, maybe even a dozen short times. From there, it's time to start teaching the basics. Now, I just happen to have a book called What I'd Teach Your Horse. It's basic training for every horse. Now, it doesn't matter if you plan on using your horse for dressage or for any rodeo events you can think of, for gymkhana, or for just hacking around your backyard. If you're going to trail ride the horse, whatever you can think of, basics are basics. Every horse on the planet needs to know these very same basics. Pick up a copy of my book, What I'd Teach Your Horse, and it'll walk you through all the basics you need to know. When you finish that book a year or two from now, then you're going to be ready to start dialing your horse into specific training into that particular sport that you have in mind for your horse. But that's 1 or 2 or even 3 years down the road. So here's a tip before I leave you. Anything that you can do to get your horse used to saying yes, any sort of training that you can imagine, will benefit you and your horse in the future as you progress in your training. If you teach your horse to, let's say, get in and out of a trailer successfully, or you teach your horse tricks, for instance, to bow, to lay down, that sort of thing, that gets your horse in the habit of saying yes when you ask it to do something. It makes for a safer horse, it makes for a horse that's easier to train, and it makes for a horse that's much more fun to ride.